These free swing changes absolutely transformed my club head speed and my ability to hit driver off the tee. Now, the first thing I want to declare is I'm not a golf coach. These are the free swing changes I made with my golf coach, Lee Cox from the Shire. Man, they have changed my swing so much for the better, and I just have to share it, which is why today we're going to go through them in detail, and hopefully they can help you out too. So let's get stuck in. Now, before we get stuck into these two big swing changes, it's important that you realize that the driver is a bit of a different swing. Even though these swing changes will massively help the rest of your game, it's important you get the setup right, okay? Make sure that ball is in line with the inside of your front foot. Make sure that your weight is slightly shifted back so your shoulders are facing up, and this is going to help you actually achieve success, because if you haven't got this right, you're only setting yourself up to fail, and you're never really going to see that consistency or increase in club speed that you want. So the first thing that I worked on was my hips. Everyone focuses on where the club is it dropping on the inside, why it's coming over the top, and yet the biggest reason for most of the people doing all of these things that are incorrect is because they're actually not rotating or clearing their hips through the ball. Now, you are always going to see more of these errors the longer the club gets. And as the driver is literally the longest club in the bag, this is really where you're going to see these exaggerated errors and where you're going to run into problems. So one of the first things that I worked on sounds so simple, but literally it was just focusing on rotating fully back. So then guess what? I would rotate fully through the ball. So many people that come over the top, you know, are not delivering the ball, not delivering the face correctly, or just simply not getting as much speed as they'd like. It's massively due to a lack of rotation on the back. Now, one of the drills Lee made me do was get a Bosu ball behind my back and just practice literally feeling my back hip and back pocket good to the back wall. And then once all I do is focus on doing that and then rotating through. But it's just such a simple drill that makes so much sense. If you said to all these people who are like, oh, I want to get the feel of the club coming inside, I want to get the feel of the hands moving, that actually, do you know what, mate? You just need to actually focus on your hips turning more. Most of them be like, get out of here. But genuinely, it made me go from hitting this like powerless slice, casting the club, to all of a sudden hitting this nice draw, hips clearing through contact, so then the club can actually come on the inside into a powerful place and then fly through. You only have to think, if your hips aren't rotating here and then rotating back so then that club can come here, that's why you're coming over the top. That's why you've got all these bad habits with your driver. So start with the basics. This is where the power comes from, your legs. So make sure that hip is moving back properly, and then make sure that hip is then moving back through. And I tell you what, you're not gonna be too far away. Just a game changer. Can't believe so many people don't do it. I know, so simple, but it genuinely will change your game, and I guarantee it's probably gonna add at least a few miles an hour onto your club speed. And I know we don't really like Bosu balls on this channel because they are used far too much when it comes to fitness for golf, but genuinely this is one exercise that they're actually quite useful for. So you might have heard me just mention in that last adjustment about casting. This was my biggest issue, and I think so many people have this issue. And if we really want to generate club speed effortlessly, all right, we really have to make sure we're not casting the club and keeping lag on that club for as long as possible. And one of the drills that me and Lee worked on that, again, is just so simple, and being a PT myself, I just love coaching cues that are simple, is right-handed swing. So my problem, and a lot of golfers' problems, is when, especially when using the driver, is they use their wrist too early. So if you cock your wrist here, right, you then lose, you almost reverse pivoting the golf club. So then by the time you get to the top here, you're actually just gonna lob the head out. So you're losing all that speed, which means then it actually comes like this, can create some inconsistency with ball striking, but more importantly, you're just not gonna be fast and the ball strike's gonna feel off. So one of the biggest things me and Lee worked on was just feeling like we're doing right-handed swings, and you can use a lighter club for this if your driver's too heavy. And literally, again, focusing on that hip turn, but just feeling like we take that club away, dead straight, and on the way back, I almost try and feel like that club's hit my back, okay? And then I extend through. So I'm almost feeling like I've got a whip in my hand. I'm trying to get that whip motion all the way through my swing, because before I was the opposite. I'd be like that and I'm like whipping here, which is completely mistimed. So I'm trying to feel that I'm turning and then whipping through and extending. And that's when you start to get that real release and transfer of energy through the ball. And all of a sudden, that club speed is starting to really translate to ball speed as well. Because you're coming in at good angles, you're getting that consistent lag on the golf club, and all of a sudden, you're swinging a lot quicker than what you were before. Now, obviously at the top, it's a lot more exaggerated. I wouldn't want you hitting the back of your body with the club, but just getting used to doing this with your right hand, you'll be surprised that when you then actually go and do some swings, all of a sudden you're going to find your takeaway is going to be a lot straighter, and then that nice release for the club is going to feel a lot more natural. That wasn't actually too pure, to be honest, but you catch my drift. Right, this next one is a bit of an interesting one. This is very like long driver-esque, but I feel for your average player, it could still be so effective of how you can really open up just another place you can get a bit more speed and a bit more consistency in your swing. And this is something that I'm really struggling with right now myself. Like, the biggest thing I want to state in this video, I am not the finished article at all. I am just another golfer, a long driver, just trying to get better. And I still, to this day, work on these three things. Like, they're still my go-tos of sometimes where I'll waver off. So don't ever feel that I'm coming from a place of like, I've got this nailed. I haven't at all, but they're just working so well for me. So this final adjustment is actually going to need a bit of a training aid. And you can get these bands off Amazon, like for $5. You just need to get the slimmest one that gives you the least amount of resistance. I actually use it to warm my shoulders. I do things like banded pull aparts. I do some back flies just to make my shoulders, make sure my shoulders are nice and warm before I swing. But another great drill, my final swing adjustment that it's really useful for, is focusing on height and keeping width in your swing. This is something I still struggle with. Like, I just have this natural ability. I get nice and high, and I was a lot worse. I used to be like here, but I get nice and high, and then at my top of swing, I just go, eh. It's almost like I've done too many bicep curls, and my body's just like, nah, mate, come in here. It's just so frustrating. What me and Lee are currently working on is trying to keep the width, because just like we talked about that lag, if I bring my golf club involved, soon as I lose my width and bring my club in here, I've just lost potential width and power and speed on that golf club. All it's about is moving your handle in the opposite place of the club, yeah? Because that's what creates the whip. So if I keep up nice and high here, and I continue to go away and against the club, I'm just going to create more and more club head speed. I'm also going to get a more consistent strike. There's just less things that can go wrong if I'm dropping them hands like I used to. So all I'm literally doing is, I tend to do this in my warm-ups, bit of drill work, sometimes before I play. I put it on my left foot. If you're a left-handed golfer, you do the opposite. And I just focus, again, same principle that from my first one. I'm going to turn my hips fully, but I'm going to try and keep this arm straight, and I'm going to feel like I just rotate all the way up. But the important part is I'm feeling like I take this up. And for me, I also want to feel like I'm putting my weight transfer on that right leg, because that really helps me turn that hip. And it's just, all this is doing is strengthening up that right shoulder. A lot of people think that keeping this left arm straight is all about keeping this left arm straight. It's not. It's actually about keeping the right arm nice and taut to help keep it straight. This should feel quite loose actually during your swing. So for me, it's just all about rotating, getting that hand as high as possible, and just getting that nice feel. And once I do literally 5 reps of feeling like I get nice and high with that right arm, I'll put the band away, I'll grab my driver, and then I'll try and just execute a few reps. Let's see what we got. Oh, a little draw, not bad at all. Put it out there, 3-3-5. Now the big important thing here, and how this tends to just increase our club speed once again, is one of the forces we have when it comes to creating club speed is something we call vertical chop. The higher our hands come, the harder they can come down. And so if you're generating that nice width here, it's just going to make it a lot easier to then come down, get into the floor, and then release. If you look at the top players, Rory, Scotty, they're all high at the top of their swings. Do you know why? So then they can really bring their force and their weight back down into that ground and really explode through. And that's the big thing about this drill. So this is the final one that I want you to really just start thinking about. The first two are gonna massively transform pretty quickly. The final one is something for the long future and something to just keep doing, because the more you can keep that width and that height in your swing, and then really use the floor on the way down to explode, especially through that front leg, oh, you're going to see a humongous difference in your game. So look, I hope you really enjoyed that. They're what's been really useful for me. It might be completely different for you, but right now my golf game is never better. I'm on the constant journey of trying to improve. My swing speed's never been higher. I'm comfortably in the 140s, even when competing in long drive. And yeah, I'm hoping I can get to the 150 soon. And I know that them free drills are going to be so important. All right, hope you enjoyed that one. If you have any questions about what I've said, drop a comment down below, and I hope to see you on the next one. On to the next.